Alright, hello everyone. So today we're going to do some banner predictions because right now I've already finished most of the early game content. I'm in the mid game more or less, and I'm just getting stat checked by some of the end game contents. Right, so I'm just going to prepare for the future, so I just want to predict a little bit and see what is going to be up next. So Ulrid banner, this one I have hard skipped, but I do know some players who pull it either for waifu reasons or because they want the common key. I'll explain that one later. The Suomi, I know that some people do hard pull this character here until like at least V1, but I do know some people V6 and some people who just say V0 is okay. I'll explain all of those logics later on also. But the next character that I think is probably going to come out is Dushevnaya, just because she appears in the story with Suomi and Ulrid. So it's very likely that we will get her, and with her it's likely we will also get this character over here, Macchiato, right, or WA2000 if you played GFL1, right? So this character here is one of the best ice DPSs in the game, and this character here is basically a very good support to support Macchiato. Alright, so let's talk about what Dushevnaya actually does, because she appears in the story, so it's very likely that we will get her next, just to, I don't know, maintain some sort of story continuance, right? Other than that, they could just throw any other banner really, and then this logic would not make sense, but I feel like that this character should be the one that comes out next. Alright, anyway, what does this character do? This character is all about making ice tiles. This skill over here is skill 2. This one, you can use it twice if you have a maximum amount of skill points, your CG or your CI, whatever you call it. Right? If you have 6 of those, you pop this one time, you create tiles. You pop this the second time, and you inflict your ice element on the target. Very strong stuff, right? You apply the tiles, and then you apply the ice element. That is very likely to freeze them at some point if they were to walk within that range. So it's really good stuff. And in order to get this back, you will need to have maximum CG, so it's quite expensive, right? But actually, her ultimate is a 2 points for 2 turns. Sorry, it just, whenever you pop this, it costs a 0 and gives you 2. And then if you drop to 0, it actually gives you an increase of 2 again. So it just always gives you 2. Then your passive also gives you an additional 2 CG over here. So really, your CG, your energy is not an issue with this character. You will be able to use this skill very often. Your skill 1 is a single target attack and is to give you this blessing of ice. This ice stacks here, you want to reach 4, because then your skill will now ignore 15% of DR from cover, deals ice damage instead, and also increases damage dealt towards enemies on friendly ice type tiles to 130%. So this skill here becomes very good once you get those 4 stacks, and there is a key to support that playstyle if you want to go for it. But this damage over here, 110%, pales in comparison to someone like Macchiato. So she is more like decent supporty DPS really. Like, it's just meant to apply the status, and then she benefits from the status, but actually she's there to provide more support to the actual DPS, who we will talk about later. Right? For the recommended keys here, this character has a lot of good debuff keys. This one, straight up, if you use your AoE skill like just now I talked about, you break them, you will be able to inflict defense decrease. Very huge stuff. Defense decrease, for example, like Cheongju, where she gets it on action support. That shit is absolutely cracked. And this stuff here is a bit harder because you do need to break them with this character. But 2 turns for this, oh my god, absolutely sexy. Right? Fixed key number 3, you get to basically burn your ice type tiles, and that will give you Blessing of Ice. So basically this dispels 1 buff from the enemy, and you also get to get your stacks of your Blessing of Ice, allowing you to get 4 stacks, and then you'll be able to do pretty decent damage with your hero principles. Or you can just take straight up crit rate for every excess of your Blessing of Ice. You can combo these 2 together, or you can take this one if you need the defense down for maybe certain enemies. It depends on what you are going for really. Then you go and swap between these keys. So all these keys, like, really good stuff. And also, if you're an active attack only hits 1 target, you increase ice damage dealt by 20%, and your damage dealt to the stability gauge by 2 points. Also really nice stuff, right? This one is mainly to help you with your hero principle shot over here. So yeah, all of this really good support, breaks the stability gauge pretty well, gives you action support, so you can also break stability gauge pretty well, and just here to apply a bunch of ice. And the passive also straight up just increases damage dealt for all allies, and also increases ice damage dealt by all allies. So it's just really good shit all around for this character. The next thing to talk about for this character is that there is one con with her, in that if this character comes out with Macchiato, just like how Suomi and Ulrich come out together, is likely the best option to actually skip Dushev and just straight up go for Macchiato V1. That's because Macchiato V1 is actually really damn strong. This character is a beast of a DPS, especially if you do get the V1, because it just straight up almost doubles the damage. But actually I think it's more like 2.5 times the damage or some shit like that. It's crazy what the V1 can do here. But if you're a collector, then maybe you just want to pick up both of them. But you can just take a look and see what I mean here. Right, let me explain this whole character first, and I'll explain what the hell this V1 does for this character. You ult, you get this Overwatch and you get this Frost Barrier. Frost Barrier is basically like Suomi's barrier, so you can get an additional shield. And then the Overwatch for 2 turns means that when enemies shoot your allies, you shoot the enemies back. And you also apply Ice Element onto them for 1 turn. So very nice stuff, right? You're just overwatching your team. And the next big thing to talk about for this character is Cold Precision Shot, her skill 1. This skill targets a single target, does 160%. Just now, Dushev was 110%, right? And then you need to stack with her, and then after that you get about 130% extra. So this thing here, like, oh my god, fat stack of damage here, and it's by default ice already. And increase crit damage of this attack by 30%, and for each damage dealt, you also gain 1 stack of Winning Belief. Winning Belief is increase attack by 10%, stack up to 3 times, and 1 is consumed if you use something else other than Cold Precision Shot. So, what's the name of the game here? I want to ult, and then I want to Cold Precision Shot as much as possible, as much as my CG can afford it, because this character cannot regenerate as much CG as like Dushev, because she has a natural +2 on her passive, but for Macchiato, she does not have natural +2 on her passive, so she's going to generate it way slower, right? So this part here, we need to shoot the shit out of them with this skill over here, and that's what the V1 actually buffs. The V1 straight up buffs the Cold Precision Shot. So instead of shooting 1 time, instead of increasing crit damage for the first shot, you now shoot twice. Straight up twice, equivalent to 100% attack though, but if the first damage instant crits, you increase the crit rate of the second one by 100%, guaranteeing a second crit, and also increase crit damage by 80%. It's a massive amount of increase in damage, and it totally supports the playstyle of this character, where she just enters this absolute mental defense mode, and then she just starts firing these Cold Precision Shots at opponents as long as her CG can afford it. Alright, so what else does this character actually give? Natural 40% crit rate, holy shit, that's crazy. Crit damage by 10%. If you are at 80% HP, you gain insight and steady movement. Not too important, but this one is the reason why you even go for the ice element. It's because when they are iced, you are able to ignore stab and increase damage. And when they are inflicted with the 2 freeze procs to activate the superior freeze, you will be able to get the 6 stab and increase damage dealt by 30%. This can't stack. It's either you get the good freeze or you get the 1 application of ice, and then that will give you a regular amount of damage increase. But that's still fine, because 4 stab, ignore, and 20% is really nice. The 20% is the main one, because normally you are going to break them pretty fast, but still, it is a nice little buff. Besides that, the whole thing around her keys is that you are just straight up building for this thing over here, Cold Precision Shot. If you kill someone, you get to refund it. That's the most important part, because you're only limited by your CG for this skill over here. If you run out of CG, then you just can't shoot anymore. So it's very important to try to make sure you have enough CG so you can keep shooting. So CG, and for the last one, this part here is why you also want Frost Barrier on this character, is because when you are 100% HP, when you are healthy, you will increase attack by 10%. And this will disappear if you ever drop below 100% HP. So that is very punishing, but it is a very good reward of 10% attack, because anyway, you want to be healthy, because if you are above 80%, you gain the insight and steady movement. And insight and steady movement is pretty much something like increased movement speed by 1, which she needs because she is a 4 speed character, which is very ass in this game. But hey, at least 5 I can definitely work with. She's basically same speed as someone like Cheongju. And then after that, what was the other one? Insight. Increase effective range of the ultimate by 1 tile. So yeah, I mean, this is all really good stuff, really, for this character. And this character's V1 just makes her into an absolute DPS god. And according to the sheet guys, they say that this is way better than getting a Dushev in your party. So if they do both appear, you can choose to prioritize Macchiato if you want to make her a really godly DPS. But if you're a collector, just go ahead and collect both. It's fine. You don't need the V1 yet. Because if you look at the CN banner history, it is very common to rerun the banners. So let's see the Diane banner over here. We scroll down a little bit, Diane will reappear again. And then Macchiato appears here, and then Macchiato will appear again, and so on and so forth. The banners will rerun. Suomi here, and then we also scroll up, Suomi's over there. So really, if you miss it, so be it. You can just come back and pick her up again. They all will rerun. Klukai will also rerun the Klukai banner, Suomi, rerun the Suomi, Dushevnaya, rerun, blah blah blah. Everyone comes back eventually. So really no issue here. Right? If you want to skip, go ahead and skip for more optimal DPS. Or if you want to collect, then go ahead and collect, because that is what this game is really about, really. It's just about collecting the dolls and then waifuing your favorite doll. Alright, so now that we talked about the prediction stuff, let's talk about the Vs, the duplicates in this game, right? Some of the duplicates in this game are really very strong, but some of them are also a bit overkill for most of the PvE content in the game. For Suomi, very commonly at this point, people are going for this upgrade 1 here. So you get 1 dupe of Suomi, and that makes Suomi into a healer. She now heals 30% of her max HP to all allies and restore more SG to all of your allies. And all of your allies also gain more of this, and all of your allies also gain more of this. Basically, you get a ton of stuff of this V1. And it is, in my opinion, a bit overkill, right? Because actually, right now we are kind of gated by the stats in this game. We can't get too many stats on Suomi yet. That's because Frost Barrier can absorb damage equivalent to 100% of Suomi's initial attack, and it cannot exceed more than 100% of the allies' HP. So actually, we are supposed to be stacking attack until we are able to hit the entirety of our party member health bar and make them get a bunch of shielding. So right now, that is kind of gated, right? We can't grind very high quality artifacts yet. So we will need to wait a little bit longer before we see this one's true value. And this part here, realistically, right, with the Suomi ult, you can probably just full HP everything, because you will never actually drop due to the fact that you have basically 2 health bars worth of shielding. It's just really damn strong, right? So I think that this is a bit overinflated, but also is still really good when you look at it on paper, right? But at any case, V0 Suomi, that's really all you need, because once you start stacking that attack, you will just become practically immortal unless the enemy is like 10 levels higher than you and outstatting you like crazy. So yeah, this thing here, really powerful ultimate, and definitely a deserving character, right? This character, super cute, and also this ult is just absolutely broken, like ridiculously good. Okay, so that is for the Vs. Now let's talk about common keys. One thing to note here, right, is that if you scroll all the way down in this sheet, you actually find this common key over here. You get this key at level 40, which is why you've never seen it. But if you can get a character at level 40, you get this shield, you get this common key here, which gives you an additional effect. And you can equip it on this character, or you can pass it to someone else. So this is one of the reasons, right, that some people actually want to pull Ulrid. That's because Ulrid's common key can be obtained at level 40 as well, and she will give you crit plus 5%. And before attacking, if the target is not at full health, you increase the damage dealt by 7%. That is straight up a very good key. 5% extra crit rate, awesome. Everyone does crit rate. And this is just straight up a free damage increase, because most of the time the target is never at full HP. For like characters that want to follow up, let's say, like maybe Cheongchu, she always attacks last. So if the target is defense down and not full HP because your Suomi shot already, congratulations, you get the free 7% increase. So for some characters, this is a really strong key. And that's why some people will also be pulling for Ulrid, or it's because it's their waifu, then they just go ahead and pull the Ulrid. Later on, you see this expansion key. We won't be getting this too soon, I think. This one was released later on. But basically, it's a follow-up key that is to buff the character. It's kind of like Arc Knights where they let you do a little quest and then you get some badge in order to upgrade the character and give their skill additional abilities, right? So this thing is very, very similar to that concept, and it basically makes a Blade Whirlwind thing allow her to follow up with additional attacks, so she can activate this a bunch of times and attack a target a bunch of times. As for whether this makes her really, really good or not, I feel like it's currently still not as strong as some other Vanguards in the game. I think one of the big weaknesses, honestly, is just that she's a melee. Because a lot of the good Vanguards that you see, right, they are ranged and they are fast. Like, they are really, really much faster than this character here, right? But, I mean, there's also some that are really good just because they are Vanguards with great debuffs. Right, so yeah, there's a lot of different things to talk about for Vanguards, but that's the summary of the key system. This is not about talking about Vanguards in general, but this is about the keys. Right, if you pull a character, you get them to 40, you get to use this key onto your other good DPSs, and that is why some of you might want to pull for the Urid banner. Right, so that is the key system. Talked about the Verterbraes. For Urid's Verterbraes, I've not really looked at them because I don't really care about her too much. So if there's any good ones, I'm not really too sure. All I know about Suomi is that the V1 is really, really good because the V1 gives you this ridiculous amount of value, and then after that the next one is like at V6. I think there might be one better, I think, in like around here, but V6 is ridiculous when I read it, you know, like defense up also, and dispels 2 buffs, and dispels panic, induce, and stun, and then now you heal more, and you increase the radius and increase the effect of defense increase. And like, why? What? Like, you don't need this much. You don't need this much. By the time you hit here, you already have more than enough. And then by the time you hit here, you have so much that you have basically 1.5 health bar, an additional 1.5 health bar. So you have 2.5 health bar. Like, this shit is giga overkill already. I mean, if it's your waifu, then go ahead. But like, this is giga overkill. Like, holy shit, man! You just went all the way in for this. Like, it's crazy, it's crazy. But yeah, V1 is honestly a pretty good value one if you just want to get one duplicate. Or you can get the duplicate later, you don't have to get it now, it's okay. Alright, so I think that's going to be it for this video. Nothing much else to talk about. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know, and I hope you all have some good luck with your next banner, whatever it is. If it's not Dushevnaya and Macchiato, maybe it could be a rest banner where you just throw like maybe like something like Zhao Hui and Santa Lucia or something like that, where it's not too high priority characters, but it's just like one L1 and one like pretty decent one. That could be a pretty decent rest banner. If they throw like Klukai or Vector or Belka this early, I think it would be kind of crazy. It would make more sense to go for the simple one, which is like Dushev into Macchiato, which is why I have a pretty good feeling about this one. If you have your own theories, feel free to let me know. Alright, I think that's going to be it for this video. Thanks guys for watching, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye bye.